What's up, guys? My name is Zach, and today I am driving a 2019 Hyundai Veloster Turbo R-Spec. Up front is a 1.6-liter turbocharged inline-4, and down below is a 6-speed manual transmission. Now, I am super excited to be driving this Veloster Turbo R-Spec for two reasons. First of all, it's manual, it's turbo, and I always get excited when those two words are put together. But the second reason is the fact that I've driven the Veloster N, and so I'm curious to see if this is a more budget-friendly option to that car. Is the Veloster N worth so much more money than this, or can you get away with just driving this and being happy? Well, we're gonna find that out today. But if you would like to submit your own vehicle, you can head on over to my website, zackpradel.com/submit. It's a quick and easy submission form. It takes under a minute to fill out. I come out to you, and you would get a video of your car, just like the one you're watching now, of this Veloster Turbo R-Spec. But let's get back to that 1.6-liter turbo under the hood. It's a Gamma 2 engine, and although earlier turbo Velosters did have some reliability issues, it seems like they've worked out the kinks when it came to the 2019. It has a built bottom end as opposed to the earlier vehicles, which helped a lot with reliability, and overall it's a pretty joyous car. Boost builds around 3,000 RPM, that's when I start really noticing it, and once you are into boost, it is very, very fun. Now, like I said, paired to it is a 6-speed manual transmission, and the R-Spec comes with a slightly tighter shifter than what you would normally find in other manual Hyundais, and I really enjoy it. The shifter feel is fantastic. The clutch engagement, I think, is actually pretty good. It's a little on the numb side, but most new cars are, so I can't really fault just the Veloster Turbo for that. That's the biggest takeaway so far, has been how great this manual transmission feels. Last but not least, the Veloster Turbo is front-wheel drive. So how does it feel to drive the Veloster Turbo R-Spec? It's nice. It's actually a really nice driving car. Like I said, that manual transmission is wonderful. I would say getting very close to the levels of Honda, which is the biggest compliment I could possibly give it. Visibility is pretty good out the front. Out the back, you might as well be looking out of a cave opening. But the steering isn't too heavy. It's decently responsive, and I think this is a severely overlooked hot hatch. I think this is a great alternative. I think people are just scared of the Hyundai name, and they really, really shouldn't be. Ooh, little curve here. Sport mode. Not bad. My shifting could be better, but it is fun. It is most certainly fun. With that stuff out of the way, let's talk about the interior. Well, in front of me, I have two physical gauges. Off to the left is my tachometer and coolant temperature, and off to the right is my speedometer and fuel. I do get a little information gauge in the center, a little digital gauge. I've seen this in so many Hyundai and Kia products over the years, not anything new here. And on the steering wheel, on the left, we have our voice commands, mode, volume, skip track, and phone options. And off to the right, we have our pages icon and cruise control settings. The steering wheel does have a little yellow line down at the bottom, a theme that you'll see throughout the rest of the interior of this car. Kind of an interesting note. Off to the left, we have a yellow line, surrounded by our gauge dimmer switch and lane keep assist. And moving out of the door, we have our power mirrors, power locks, and power windows. Moving into the center, we do get a little infotainment system. Nothing really new here. I have some apps and info. It does have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. It works. It does the job. Then we have our radio buttons for seek, track, media, home, phone setup. Very, very standard Hyundai buttons you'll find down here, accompanied by the volume and tune knobs. And then we have our climate controls. No dual zone, just fan speed off to the left, temperature to the right, where to send it in the middle. Very, very simple. But again, you'll see more of these yellow accents found throughout. Then we have our inputs. We have USB and aux, as well as a 12-volt outlet. Big cubby down below, and then we come to the shifter area. Off to the left, we do have a sport mode, so we have two modes of sport and normal, as well as our traction control off, and then two dead switches. Don't love that, but then again, this is a more base model vehicle. This was the most affordable way you could get a turbo in the Veloster, so not surprising there. The shift knob looks and feels great. I love this like machined aluminum. And down below, we do have two cup holders, so we will do a big friggin' bottle test. But predictably, however, unfortunately, the Veloster Turbo R-Spec fails the big friggin' bottle test. Then we do get a center console, and the seats also have the yellow interior striping or interior theme that this car is pushing. And I like the fact that it sort of looks like a hazard warning, like, hey, you know, It's about to get real in here, brother. At least that's how that stripe comes off to me. Overall, I think the seats are fine. They are manual. Again, this was the most affordable way to get a turbo. So sacrifices had to be made, and power seats were one of those sacrifices. However, speaking of seats, we do have back seats. So let's go do a back seat review. So if you know anything about Velosters, you'll know that they have only 3 doors. Ow, I hit my head. It's been a cornerstone of the Veloster ever since it debuted in like, what was it, 2011, 2012, whatever it was. I realized the camera's crooked now. I'm not getting back out to fix it. You know, back here is a little cramped. Now, behind the driver, there's actually more space, so the passenger could be nice and move up, and it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world, but my head is coming close to the ceiling. I don't love being in the back of these. They feel very cramped and very unspacious. I don't know, I'm trying to think of a good word. It's not big. If you're 5'11" like me, your head's gonna hit the ceiling, but that wasn't really what this car was meant to be. It should have been a 2-door hatchback, and maybe like this seat could move forward and fold, but it doesn't. I don't know. I've just never been a fan of the back seats, whether that's N, R-Spec Turbo, base model, whatever it is. So just something to note. Let's hop out. We'll take a quick look at the trunk and cargo space, and then we'll talk about the looks. All right, around the back of the Veloster Turbo. Little button here, pull it up, and we do have our trunk. I've always disappointed with the amount of trunk space that you actually end up getting in the Veloster. I always think that it's gonna be more, and it's not. Now, is this a bad amount of trunk space? Absolutely not, no. If you want a fun, sporty car like a Miata or a Porsche Boxer or something like that, you're gonna have way less in this. So this is already a leg up on most cars that are fun with a manual. However, I just feel like the back end of this car is so big that I feel like they could have squeezed more space, but they didn't. But hey, those are just my feelings, and we don't operate on feelings here. We only operate on cold, hard facts, like how cold and hard this rain is. Now we gotta talk about the looks, and I really like the look of this car. I think it's styled pretty well. However, my one big gripe with it is that the interior striping doesn't carry on the outside. They're like, no, outside gets red, but inside gets yellow? Kind of a weird decision to make. I feel like if it had yellow accents on the outside, it would be more cohesive. And how often do you see cars with yellow accents? Every car has some type of red accent for sportiness, but yellow would have been cool and unique, and I wish they carried that on outside. With all of that being said, let's get on to my final thoughts. What do I think driving a Hyundai Veloster Turbo R-Spec from 2019? Well, it's a good car. I've enjoyed my time with it. Like I said, my biggest takeaway of this car is the shifter feel. It is so good. And I just wasn't expecting it. I always sort of write off Hyundais or their dual clutches most of the time I drive automatic, so it's not really on the forefront of my mind. And now driving this, I have fallen in love with this manual transmission. Let's compare it to the N. So if you're unaware, in this time when they still were making Velosters, they don't make them currently anymore, there was the Turbo, but then there was the N. Veloster N has a larger engine, the 2-liter turbo, and makes about 50 more horsepower. But it also comes with a really crackly loud exhaust. It comes with really cool N accents, blue seat belts. That is the top dog when it came to Veloster chassis. But those cars, more often than not, go for almost, if not more than double what you could buy this car for. And is the Veloster N double the car of this? Not quite. Honestly, if you're in a pinch and you're like, oh, maybe I can make an N work, I would highly suggest looking at a Turbo R-Spec, because you're getting a lot of the same experience for a lot less coin. And honestly, if you just changed the exhaust of this car and made it crackle and a little bit louder, I think it'd be hard to tell the difference from the driver's seat between the N and the Turbo R-Spec. Now, the N you could get a limited slip diff with, which would be great, but not even all N's came with the limited slip diff. So you're not missing out on that much. I don't know. In today's market, with car prices so high, I just want you to be aware that there are options. Yes, the N is great, and if you can afford one, definitely go buy that. But don't stretch your pennies. Unless it's in one of those like really fun machines you see at like museums and stuff. You stretch your pennies there, but don't stretch your pennies for a Veloster. This car is fun, it's engaging, it's great. It's a lot more reliable than they used to be. I don't know. It just seems monetarily smart to at least take a look at these. And if you really hate it, but you love the N, of course, go buy Veloster N. But I think a lot of your needs will be fulfilled by just the turbo. Some swooping right-handers. Woo! Yeah, it's buckets of fun. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Huge thank you to Alex for letting me take out his Veloster Turbo R-Spec. I was so excited to drive this car and to compare it to the N. Alex has been wonderful to work with. We might work again together in the future, and I am honestly looking forward to that. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to rate the video, comment on the video, and subscribe if you really liked it. Take care, guys.